Hello, I'm Eric Snodgrass, and thank you for watching today's midday weather outlook for the southern region brought to you by Nutrien Ag Solutions. Well, I want to take you back to yesterday, and I want to show you a visible satellite imagery animation here of the storms that popped in parts of Oklahoma and Arkansas and Texas. And I've got the image still here because I want you to see this boundary right here. If you remember back on Monday, we talked about how a lot of times the outflow or the old downdrafts of old thunderstorms serve as the trigger mechanism or the lifting mechanism for new. And right inside there, right here along this line, is one of those boundaries. And we were watching the cumulus field build on that. Now watch as I press play here and let these storms go. So you saw right there, look at them just blow up right there on that line. Really impressive to see that. And some of these storms were quite powerful. Those anvil clouds, that's the big disk-like cloud that you see spreading out here, several thousand feet in the sky. In fact, some of these probably got up well over 30 to 40,000 feet. And at the end of the animation, as the sun was setting and these storms were racing through parts of eastern Oklahoma and into Arkansas, we actually could see here that the tops, the overshooting tops, were probably punching through to 45 or 50,000 feet. These were very deep thunderstorms, and oftentimes deep thunderstorms, especially in early spring, are responsible for producing a lot of hail. And the image that you see over there on the right, that's a large hailstone here that was in Fayetteville, Arkansas, which is right here in this corner of Arkansas. And so in total we had 376 reports of severe weather, but you can see the dominant type of severe weather yesterday was the hail that was reported. As we watch the storms move, here it is again, this is infrared satellite imagery, so we're watching what happened overnight. We kind of had two clusters to pay attention to. We had a lead cluster here that was moving through parts of Tennessee, then got over through the Appalachian Mountains, and this morning ended up near like Myrtle Beach area. And then again, you can see on the backside the storms that continue to push toward the lower Mississippi River Valley. Well, those storms that made it all the way over here to Myrtle Beach, we got a great picture of them this morning from CL Photography at Myrtle Beach here, and just a beautiful arcing shelf cloud as these storms raced through just after sunrise this morning through Myrtle Beach. So putting it all together, just thinking about what we talked about on Friday, we were anticipating having a really relatively dry weekend and start to the week for much of our southern region. We knew we were on the lookout for potential for storms here and through this area, but south of that, we missed out on all of this. So several days of drier weather, which in some locations were needed. Well, what are we going into this week? Well, Storm Prediction Center today again is going to watch two areas. We're going to watch the remnants of the storms from yesterday be pushing through parts of eastern Texas and Louisiana. We need to be talking about, again, the resurgence of storms over here, kind of centered on the hills here in parts of Tennessee into North Carolina, and then the northern part of Alabama, northern part of Georgia and South Carolina. As we look out a little bit farther than that, things calm down a bit tomorrow on the 6th across the United States, but then we're going to watch another low that's going to merge right in through here on the 7th, May the 7th, and a good return flow coming up into that low. And as it does so, we're going to have, again, a destabilizing atmosphere. We're going to watch, possibly even watch farther to the north, maybe up into the panhandles, but there's the chance of too strong of a capping inversion in that area that could limit the chances of us getting storms. So let's just keep it targeted right there in and around the Red River Valley. Our severe weather index does show that from the GFS model we may be able to bring around quite a bit more instability, but my concern is right in through this area that the cap strength may be a bit too strong. So we're going to watch that carefully, but overall I think our severe weather index and the Storm Prediction Center line up pretty well with what's going on Thursday. So let's animate this forward. Let's just watch the early morning storms there through mid-morning. So we see what we've got moving through parts of the very northern edge of our southern region. So Tennessee, Kentucky, getting over to North Carolina. Just a stormy morning with rain pushing finally on off the coast here by early morning. Okay, what are we going to watch behind that? Well, there is still a frontal boundary right in through here. You can see it pretty clearly, and we're going to see that by mid-afternoon on the south side of that, the atmosphere is going to get quite warm and destabilize. And so as that boundary pushes through this afternoon, this evening, we're going to watch for severe storms right in through this area, but stronger thunderstorms stretching all the way back here into Mississippi, Louisiana, and Texas. So that's going to be the area I want to keep an eye on later today. Why these scattered in nature? It looks as though right now from the NAM model, but again, that's our severe weather threat region. So if we let this play from this evening on Tuesday on into the overnight hours, this gets us to 11 p.m. Tuesday, now into early morning on Wednesday, by Wednesday, that front will have come through and kind of cleared things out. So after that, just some scattered precip here in Tennessee and Arkansas and this part of Missouri early in the morning. But other than that, it's going to be a relatively dry day for much of us across the south. Again, just some scattered showers, potentially a couple of embedded thunderstorms in through this area by Wednesday afternoon, but right now we're not concerned about those being severe. So the next thing we're going to watch, if you see at the very end of this animation, look at southern Texas. Do you see how the switch goes from heading south here back to north, where we're watching the development of a low pressure center in this area? And to go see what that's going to look like, I want to just show you the next 3 days of kind of peak wind gusts in the afternoon. So this is later on today, Tuesday afternoon. So we can see the flow of the atmosphere is really doing something like this, and that boundary will be sitting right in through here. So on the south side, we're feeding it with moisture like that, and that boundary is going to be our focal point. But pretty windy day across central Texas coming out of the northeast at times. As we get into the day on Wednesday, this is where the front has finally cleared everything out. So as you can see here, we've now cleared it all out. The low pressure center is sitting off the coast, but you can start to notice the turn back around of the winds here, such that by Thursday, high pressure dominates here, but look at that wind returning, and it's going to be right in through this area that we're going to be seeing our greatest chances of having some strong to severe storms Thursday afternoon and evening. So to see where it goes from there, why don't we just flip on over to the European model and watch this forward. We've seen to about this point. So this would be Thursday morning. There's that high pressure cell I just highlighted. And by Thursday afternoon and evening, we start to see that low developing here. So this will be the area we're going to watch Thursday afternoon and evening. You can see the storms really showing up right there. Very, very windy conditions as you see through the panhandles here, because the pressure gradient around this low is very high. The low itself is not deep, but there's a big high here and a big high in the backside. And as a result of this, very strong pressure gradient. So throughout the evening hours on Thursday into Friday morning, you see there, and then Friday afternoon and evening, those showers and storms press farther to the south and eventually work their way down to the Gulf Coast as this dominant area of high atmospheric pressure pulls in. Now watch this for the weekend. This is going to be Saturday morning, Saturday afternoon and evening, okay? Notice in the Gulf of Mexico, while we get a dry weekend here for many across the south, it'll be cold, but a dry weekend, look at the tropical development we see here. Now, whether it's going to be truly tropical or have some subtropical, in other words, cold core values to it, we're going to have to see. But watch this. This moves right across the very warm water on Sunday afternoon and evening and heads right over to Florida. And right now the operational models are putting some extremely heavy rain across parts of Florida. This is not a tropical system in that it's going to look like a hurricane or tropical storm or anything like that. It's extremely heavy rain fed on the very warm ocean temperatures here. Meanwhile, if you're north of that, it's going to be chilly weekend compared to normal, but relatively dry as well. As we work our way out into next week, we're going to start to see a bit of a pattern change beyond the 12th. And we certainly need to talk about what that means. But take a look at this. This is now late in the night on Monday, getting into early Tuesday morning. You can see the next system at present seems to spread north of the southern region, which means outside of the next two precipitation events, relatively drier conditions will prevail across the southern region until we see this pattern finally change. So let's just watch the precipitation accumulate. These are our total accumulated precipitation values through, let's just get through midnight tonight and into early morning tomorrow morning. So you see that? These storms that are coming through, remember, they're scattered in nature, so we're not going to be seeing widespread heavy rainfall. But if you get caught underneath one, some heavy rainfall. So let's then get through the rest of Wednesday into Thursday morning. Remember, it's going to be Thursday afternoon and evening right there. Look in Texas and Oklahoma. See the storms blowing up there? And then as we saw, they push down through Friday into the Gulf. Now after that, watch this. You're not going to see much change at all here, but watch the heavy rainfall stretch from basically parts of the Bay of Campeche straight over to Florida. And there is the potential there with the tropical moisture that's embedded in this to be getting, over 5 inches of rain. So we got to be on the lookout for that. Outside of it, look at the rest of the southern region. Okay, that's what we're looking at over the next week. Okay, week 2. What we're watching very carefully is this. That trough that's going to keep us so cold over the weekend finally on its way out. Okay, so that's moving. Behind it, as we talked about on Monday, ridges beginning to form. This trough here, if it comes sweeping into the west coast, that's going to give us a storm track that's going to go just like this. And that will draw a lot of tropical moisture out of the Gulf of Mexico, and it's going to set us up to look for a precipitation pattern that looks something like this. Now you notice in both models for week 2, we see drier conditions over here in the southeast. That would be the impact of the ridging. But certainly with that pattern setting things up, it's going to be stormy in through here. And just something I always like to remind folks, a lot of my friends and colleagues love to storm chase. I love to do it too. Whenever we are getting excited about a pattern for storm chasing purposes, that typically means that farmers in the Central Plains getting into the Midwest are going to be dealing with some adverse weather. So my friends are starting to chatter, and I think this is something that we need to be thinking about for the second half of May. All right, finish this up. Let's talk temperatures. We have not seen much of a change in this map across the southern region. Some of the early season heat we accumulated just stayed in place because we weren't, remember, we don't subtract growing degree day units. So this map has remained relatively unchanged. And that's because over this time period, look, we have really seen over the last 15 days near average to below average temperatures. So very slow accumulation, not building up major anomalies here in GDUs. The heat's been back to the west. So where are we going? Well, let's take a look at minimum temperatures here over the next several days because we're going to watch out for that deeper trough and what it means for our overnight lows. So Wednesday morning lows, we can see, look at this widespread 40s and 50s in this region. Going into Thursday, look at the cold that's going to get all the way to the Gulf Coast. I mean, this is very cold for us this time of year. In the higher elevations, don't be surprised if we get temperatures already by Thursday that get down here very close to freezing. But as we get into the day on Friday, you get this sense of moderation, but watch what happens on Saturday. Saturday morning, I think, will be the coolest for some folks. We might see that freezing line. I mean, if you just take a look at this here, we've got 32 degrees getting all the way down here. See that? That's pretty far to the south. A lot of 40s and 50s further to the south of that. And then on Sunday, this is the day I'm getting concerned about for the Carolinas, parts of Tennessee and Kentucky. So if you look right in here, I see a lot of temperatures that are getting down into the low 30s. So watch out for clear skies, light winds, and also low elevation. Okay, that's where the cold can kind of pool in. So we might have an extremely late frost event in some locations right in through here. We got to watch that carefully. The moderation begins after that. This is Monday and beyond. In fact, if you look out beyond that, this is primarily encapsulating that cold snap I just showed you, but this is going to be days 6 through 10, so this gets us out to the 15th. But remember, most of the cold that you see in these two maps is loaded up this weekend, which is the beginning of the 6 to 10 day time period. And here you go. This is now after that pattern breaks like we talked about on about the 11th or 12th, and we start to rebuild back in those warmer conditions as the jet stream starts to take on a flow that does something a bit more like that. And that is going to be getting us set up with those wetter conditions. So I'll finish with this. May 18th through the 25th, the temperatures at that point moderating, in fact becoming warmer than normal as we see the jet stream really kind of split through here. And with that, we do see above average precipitation. But remember, this is just barely on the wetter side of things. This is just the model being consistent with itself, saying we're going to have better upper level support here. We put a D on it, divergence in that area due to the jet stream path. So really what this means is an increase over toward more summer-like convective activity as we press our way into the third week here and almost the end of May. So we'll wrap it up there. Have a good week. Talk to you tomorrow with my new long-range update. Looking forward to giving you some analysis on what I think the rest of May and what summer is going to look like. All right. So we'll give you that tomorrow. Have a good one. We'll talk to you then. Thank you.